All right. Welcome everyone to the after class discussion. I will be your host, Ross Nichols at the Athenaeum in Jackson. Hey, it's good to be here with you today. We covered a lot of material, a lot of things that I did cover might be a little bit, I don't know, controversial, which is not my nature to bring up anything controversial. But some of you might have questions or comments. Some of you may have points where you agree with me, points where you disagree with me. All of those are okay. You're safe here to do this, and so I'm looking forward to some good discussion. When you think about it, Jonah and I, by the way, did a series on the 10 words, and we brought in every ancient version that we knew of. We talked about some Dead Sea Scroll versions. We talked about the Samaritan Pentateuch. By the way, the Samaritan Pentateuch is a totally different version. It too disagrees with what we see on these other versions too. So in the Samaritan version, it has to do with the mountain of Gerizim, and so there's a lot going on when it comes to these 10 words, and I think it's worth our study. If we don't even get this right, this is my point. If we can't even determine what the 10 words are, I think that we have to at least make an attempt here. And, if a person memorizes and follows the Exodus version, that's fine. Look, if the world would pick one of these, let's say if the world said, I think we're just for one day, there's going to be no adultery. You know what that would do for the planet? I think it would be remarkable. I think it would think about how many families are ruined because a man takes another man's woman. Look at theft, look at murder, look at so all of these lists, it's not like you could pick one and go wrong, but I'm just curious, can we ever get to the place where we can find, the most accurate version of what was communicated at Horeb? And that's the main reason that I brought this up today in the class. What are some of your comments, some of your questions, some of your concerns? I'm looking. We've got a pretty good crowd here today. And let's see, is anybody ready to jump in? Anybody? Maybe I'll just start singing. Hey, Joshua, there you go. How you doing, brother?
Do well, man. Yourself?
I am doing wonderfully. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I just have a quick question for you.
Okay.
Concerning a Hebrew word. Do we know what the English translation is for the word Horeb?
Excellent question. When you look it up, even in our advanced lexicons, like if I look it up in Brown Driver Briggs I love Brown Driver Briggs. It's rather dated, but it's still my favorite. Whether I look there or I look at one that's more modern, like Hebrew Aramaic Lexicon of the Old Testament, it's called Halot. What you typically get is that it means dry. And that's it. Horeb indicates this dry desert region. And so, you think, well, what does that have to do with, well, it's just the name of the place. So, I mean, it's not, and in fact, people debate the meaning of Sinai as well. I'm going to let someone else, we're going to see this is a little test. We're going to do a test while we're rolling. Who can look up Sinai for us and put that in the comments, either on YouTube or in our Zoom call here? I'm curious if anyone else has looked at that. Yeah, it's not like it's some great revelation as to the meaning of the name Horeb,
It
but
just sparked my curiosity, because every year that we talk about this part of the parashas, I'm looking for clues.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And I'm like, well, we know the Hebrew is very specific.
yeah,
It's an old language, but it's still does pretty good.
that's
And
right.
I never. So anyway, you were talking with the introduction, and I thought to myself, we've got these names of these places.
Yeah, yeah.
Wonder what they mean.
Yeah, and it's as you work through, one of the things that I did in a previous year, I was looking back at a file I had on Torah portion Yitro. Those of you who come to the conference can look at my, in my file cabinet, and I think you probably have seen some of that, Joshua, where I have just from teaching years on these various Torah portions. And one of the things that I've taught in the past is to show, kind of focus more on where is Horeb, and based on the text and exactly where it might be. And of course all of that is debated like everything else, but it was funny looking back over a previous class, and I really got into kind of following the trail of the Israelites, at least according to the text. And one thing that I would say, I know Dave Tyler mentioned, I think last week, uh, and I put it in the comments or in the description of last week's video, that if you follow Deborah Hearn's research, like on academia, she gives a lot, not only about the locations and where they might be, but some of the meanings behind some of these names too, Joshua. I don't remember coming up with anything special on Horeb, but anyway,
Well, it's good to know. Thank you
yeah.
for the information.
Mm-hmm. Yep. What else? What else, brother Joshua?
It's the main thing. That I spent the last 3 or 4 years going over the 10 words. I love listening to you talk about it, and you know, breaking it down with this analysis is near and dear to my heart. It's my favorite part of the Bible.
Now, I think, did I see a note, not to put you on the spot in front of everybody, but it looked like your schedule might not align where you can join us this year for the conference. Is that right? Is that
As of right now, I don't think we're
okay?
going to be able to get to Louisiana in that part of April. We've
Okay.
got trips scheduled right before and right after, and we're going to
Okay.
be pretty booked. So I'm hoping maybe something will change, but if not, I'm definitely going to shoot for next year.
All right. Good deal. Well, it's always good to see you when I can. You've been here a couple of times. Maybe it's time somebody else comes.
Sounds good.
All right, buddy. Take care.
See ya.
All right. And Belinda. Hello, Belinda.
Hey Ross, how
How
you
are you?
doing?
I'm doing wonderfully. How are
Um,
you?
I'm emotional right now.
Okay.
Just hearing you read the 10 words with the um blessings and the curses,
Yeah.
comparing the comparing them, taking them out through, comparing them through is just so
Yep.
overwhelming. Um, and seeing all of these comparisons between Exodus and Deuteronomy and
Hmm.
Moses scroll.
Yeah.
Um, it's just
Yeah. I know.
it's just having 8 children and raising them as best as I could in the Christianity that I was raised to know.
Yeah.
Um, and then, just going through the whole process of questioning this and questioning that and getting kicked out of this church and that church because of questioning things.
Yeah.
Um, and going through all of that with my children.
Yeah.
Um, and then, now they're all grown and out of the house except for our Philip.
Hmm.
And just I don't know how to. A couple of them are still in church, but they're not in Trinitarian church. Um, and some of them aren't, and but they still. I know that they know God. I didn't know they know God is one, and that I'm happy about.
Yeah.
But I guess I don't know how do you continue to reach your adult children. Um, I don't know. I mean, I raised them
And
we did homeschooling with a Christian curriculum and everything. Everything was so reinforced.
yeah.
And So I'm not asking for answers.
Yeah.
I'm asking for prayer.
Yep.
I'm asking that the Yachad would just pray that God would show me how I can share this in a better way with my family, because I think it's really critical information, and realizations that you are sharing with everybody.
Can I make
And
you
I just,
feel
and
can I make you feel better? Will you let me make you feel better?
yeah, that I welcome that.
All right, let me tell you something. I happen to know your husband and several of your kids, and they are a fabulous group. Uh, and I loved every person that I met in your family, and you could tell that they had been brought up in a home that loved God and sought to serve God. I mean, that's clear. Now, we can't control everything, and we continue to learn. It's part of what we do. And I can tell you this: I have 6 kids, and within my family, I have some that are very, very active in their church, and some that aren't very religious at all. And one thing that I do, and I'm not saying this is right, but I love my kids and interact with them wherever they're at, and they are thankful that I don't pull a Saturday morning on them every time I see them. We might talk about whatever. I don't really. Now, if they have questions, they come to me. But I tell you, I am thrilled that one of my daughters and her family are very active in their church. That's where God has them right now. And the biggest thing that I had to recognize for me, now I'm not saying I'm right, and some people would disagree with me, but one of the biggest things I had to recognize is I've been in these texts up to here for decades. And I don't expect someone else to, you know, take in everything that, I mean, it just wouldn't work. So I know, for instance, like you and Glenn had not too long ago, maybe this past year, did the Passover, and you used some of the text from the Moses scroll, and you're doing everything that you can. And I tell you, we're on the quest. One time my wife told me, she said, because I had pulled us out of every church, and it was like we'd get to going and we'd make I remember one time she said something to this effect: every time I make a friend, you pull us out of this place. We're never gonna. So I remember it was ultimately, she was like, go figure this out. When you figure it all out, come get me. Uh, she didn't dump me, thank God, but she probably got pretty close. So I guess all of that just to say, there certainly are times where we can have discussions with the people that we love, but we don't have to feel the pressure, I don't think, to bring them where we are, like, right away. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah, and I don't feel pressured. I don't feel exactly pressured to bring them where I'm at. They have to make their own journey. I totally get that.
yeah,
But even just, you know, I don't feel like I even have opportunities
yeah,
to share. I mean, we bought, of course, a slew of your books and passed them out,
yeah.
but yeah.
Well, it just one other thing, I tell you, it's like, I tell people all the time, I grew up in fundamental Christianity. And if it was not for that, if it was not for a long line of preachers and great great grandfathers and grandmothers who got on their knees, and hey, let's face it, they were praying to Jesus and they were singing songs to the Most High, and that's who they thought it was. And look, all of that stuff. But because of that godly heritage, I know people gasp when they hear that sometimes now, but because of that dedication to the Bible, generally to them it was the King James probably, it was passed down from generation to generation to generation. And it's why I carry I don't go to the grocery store without a Bible, because we love the Bible. We love these texts. And I know that there are some people who were Christians and now they orient their life more towards the Hebrew Bible, and maybe they've tossed out Christianity and all that. And some of those people, hopefully none of you are this group, but some of those people would say, I don't want to hear any of that. But we have people that are coming into our group who are in different places. I say, welcome, come on in.
Yeah, that's a big amen. Yes.
Yeah. But I really appreciate you and Glenn and your family, and it means a lot that we're in this together. It's a search, it's a quest, and every day, every week, every month, I'm open. I remain open to discover new truth, and I'm okay now letting go of what may or may not be truth. Good stuff.
I hear that. I hear that. Well, anyway, I thank you for everything, Ross. And if the Yachad can just extend some prayers my way, that, just to give me some more opportunities, that would be a big weight off my chest.
You betcha. All right, good
Thanks
stuff. My best to you and your family, Belinda. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, JJ.
All right. You got me now.
I got you, man.
Yeah, it's another week where it was looked like slow hands getting raised. So here we go. Slow hands getting raised. So I was like, well, let me put something up here.
Good.
I didn't quite think it through, but like a month or so ago, I was putting this list together. I was like trying to make my own, it doesn't work. My own list of the 10 words across, Exodus 20, Deuteronomy 5, and Moses Scroll.
Yep.
As well as Exodus 34, which is very fun to try to sort through there. So I'm gonna wait for that week to talk, unless you kind of push me. But I got that one broken down too. But I see like 13 in Exodus 20, Deuteronomy 5. I really see like 13 distinct commands as like the note that I wrote down.
Yep.
And I don't have it broken down on my notes how I put those 13 things in there, but I do see, like, I have the Jewish Study Bible, so I saw the same diagram that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
As well as what what you and Jonah were talking about the other night. So yeah, but I see 3, 10, and then I just try to bounce that against where it is in the Moses scroll, and there's the number 10. I couldn't figure out where number 10 from the Moses scroll was, how it fit into 20 and 5. And I just have it broken down, and I just thought it was a good drill for me, good to exercise, kind of flipping back and forth. And then 34 is where it gave me the real workout. But
did you add Leviticus 19 into your mix yet?
So it's not, I haven't put Leviticus 19 together yet. So that's the next one to go is Leviticus 19. So I have that one in my notes to kind of put together, but I'll be ready to talk about that when we're on the parasha in Leviticus. So, I just wanted to share that, and I just thought it was interesting, how they're structured a little bit differently, and they definitely don't match for sure. Yeah. And because I'm bouncing against my BHS and a regular English Bible in English. So
I had some fun one week. This is, I know people might say, I can't believe you did that, but I was invited one year, I think only one year, now that I think about it, but I was invited one year to my friends at Chabad. The rabbi there sent me a note. They were going to stay up all night, and which is a traditional thing to discuss the 10 words. And so, I showed up, and I love Chabad for this reason. They're so open, and it's always fun whenever I go there. So we're talking in the traditional, during Shavuot, at least my experience is that they focus on Exodus 20. And so any discussions, we're talking about Exodus 20 and so forth. And at one point in this all-nighter, the men and the women were still together, kind of in one big group. And so the crowd had kind of, people were getting a little bit tired. They'd eaten all the cheesecake they could possibly, take in. And people were acting tired, like they were ready to quit. It's probably getting close to midnight. And I said, hey, I have an idea. And everybody looked at me and I said,
Here we go.
I said, why don't we just look at Exodus 20? Let's look at Deuteronomy 5 and discuss the differences. And I remember the rabbi's wife looked at me, and this is a young couple. They're in their 20s, 30s, whatever. They're young. And I remember she said differences. And I said, yeah. I said, let's look at Deuteronomy 5. Anyway, it was one of those minutes where time stood still and everyone's face and of course we did. We went there and we talked about it, and I flipped back and forth, and now that I think about it, I don't think I've been invited back. But anyway, that was fun. It was a fun night while it lasted. But there are differences, and I know that people will look for reasons to make differences go away. I did that for years. I don't even think I thought I was doing it. I was looking for answers, explanations for these variances. And I'm still looking at them now. I'm not looking for excuses. Now I'm looking at them. I'm facing them full on, like you're describing, where you list these side by side and really get into the text and say, what can we ever discern the original? Anyway.
Yeah. No,
Good
and I
stuff.
also I just wanted to share, I did pick up this other book. I found a 600-page book by Joseph Lewis called The 10 Commandments, and he goes through and he's breaking down each one. I haven't cracked it open yet, other than just kind of peruse it. But
is it a new book? Is it a new book?
No, it's let me see what it's from. It's from it's copyright 1946.
Okay.
So it's got some old. I'm sure it's got some oldie but goodie information in there,
Oh yeah.
We'll see. Yeah.
Good deal.
So if I find anything good in there, I'll be sure to share it once I start studying it as well. So
excellent.
All right,
Good
thanks.
stuff.
Let's let Chloe give a shout in.
All right, JJ.
Take
See
care.
you later,
Shabbat
man.
shalom.
All right, Shabbat shalom. All right. Hello, Clody. Shabbat shalom,
Hello.
my friend.
Shabbat shalom, everybody. Thank you for the class, Ross, for the 100th time, or I don't know how many times.
All right.
Believe me, this was such a whole class, as in completed, that it was difficult to begin commenting, at least for me, or to begin talking about it, or to pose any kind of question. But I want to share something that I've been having on my mind during this transition of mine from wherever I was to Louisiana and so on. So I'm trying to read, I'm trying to research, I'm trying to become smarter. And I am becoming, according to me, smarter and intelligent and knowledgeable. So I'm so proud of myself sometimes.
Yeah.
And yesterday, as I was trying to become smarter and intelligent and feeling this pride of mine, I began to listen to some things from Professor Bart Ehrman, and some other people, very intelligent people. And as I was listening to them, I could see how me with them, we were boasting in destroying all the mythology of religion, all the addings, all the lies that we see even in our Bible.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, but I can understand how these are really interesting topics on how to find the real seed, as we were talking all of these weeks, and as we were studying according to the documentary hypothesis.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was like, but what remains? What does it remain? I mean, and yesterday I had a very bad day because I had a fight with my sister.
Uh-oh.
Things that happen.
Yep.
And I was like, and believe me, I was the evil one yesterday. And I was like, so what if you're smart and you study and you looking for God and you see that you understand things if you do not do things?
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference. And that's a big difference between godly people and ungodly people. Ungodly people will study just to become wiser and intelligent, and destroy whatever. And they are doing good service, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But is that a good way of living? I think that the best way of living is doing those 10 commandments. And if we find better than those 10 commandments along the way, we could adapt them
Mm-hmm.
in our path of living. So what we have until now, at least from my point of view, what we have, the best thing we have now, are these 10 commandments from the Moses scroll.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much I can thank you. I cannot thank you enough for doing this Shema and the 10 commandments and the curses and the blessings. I think that that's all we need. And that's why it was so difficult to get inside this after class. But I think that we will need what I would really love to read would be a study from a lawyer's point of view of these 10 commandments. Which rules, which laws these 10 commandments cover? I would love to see that. And if that lawyer or attorney has some kind of psychological background, that would be even better.
Yeah.
Because what I can understand is that that's almost perfect from my point of view. And I want to finish just by remembering a little bit Jesus,
Yep.
who said to the people when they asked him, how will we know? And he said, you will know them from their fruits.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we have to listen, learn, guard, do.
Yeah.
We have to do, because sometimes we, at least me, myself, I get lost in studying and I forget that the most important is to do. If we do not do good, if we do not help each other, if we do not listen to each other, if we do not give ear or give counsel to each other, then what's the point on doing all this?
Yeah. That last thing that you said is something that I've often thought about. It has to be, our faith has to be more than an intellectual exercise. Someone wrote a comment to me, basically, because look, in the world that I live in, because I'm teaching that these texts, let's be honest with the text, and this doesn't agree with this one. And so one of the things that I meet with quite often is people will write me and say, why are you doing this? You're destroying, this is what some people say, you are destroying my faith. You're like, like And I get it. I mean, I get what they're saying. I know what they say. I know that they're not just saying that. They really believe that. But I usually try to take the time right away, even though I've got a schedule like all of you and it's busy. If I get something like that where I feel like someone is on the edge, I get a hold of them as quickly as possible, and I try to write it, and I say, look, here, I don't say it like this, but here are my options. I can either I can either turn away from any discrepancies or difficulties and just ignore them and just be a teacher like everybody else, just say it like I always, just play like there's nothing there. But I can't do that, see? So, but to your point, I'm not learning just to learn. I want this learning to be oriented towards how to live. So I listen to learn to live, and that's what it's really about. Like, I don't want to know which were the original 10 just to have the list straight in my head. I want to do the covenant. I want to follow the teaching as closely as I can. What I'm being honest about that troubles some people is that I'm saying, well, which one is it? Well, when you back up, like for instance, on the 10 words, there are certain things that just, they don't change. Like you go, can you kill your brother? No, you can't. You can't do that. You're like, well, does it read the same? It's the same, right? Here's the deal. So there are certain elements that are the exact same. And here's what I come to, like, I really think that if you read Exodus 20 and Deuteronomy 5, we're missing one. There's only 9. So even if, this is what I've come to, even if let's say the Tylers and I and others who join with us, let's say we find the fragments where we think they might be, and we test them, and the lab that tests them says, Ross, sorry to let you know that this is from a goat that was born in 1876. It doesn't change the fact that it's still a good thing to not hate my brother in my heart. In fact, that's a command in Leviticus 19. So there is a missing commandment, a missing word, and I really do think that it probably was that one. So anyway, I didn't really tie into what you were saying. It just, your thought had me thinking, and I agree with you. I think it's very important. We can listen to brilliant people like Bart Ehrman and others. I told Jono when he was here, we had some good talks, just the two of us. And we struggled at points too, just to be honest with people. You think, well, what do I believe in? I mean, and I told him, I said, Jono, I love the Hebrew Bible. I love everything. I love the stories. I like the stories of David and Goliath, and the stories of Samuel and Kings and Chronicles. And if I came to the place where I didn't believe anything, I would still love these stories and teach them. And other people aren't like that. I know people who have walked away from this because their understanding is that this was inspired, authoritative, inerrant, and when they found difficulties, they said, I'm out. I'm going to go play golf or something, right?
I was also thinking about the tree of the knowledge of good and bad yesterday. And I was like, perhaps this has to do with the scope of the knowledge.
Yeah.
I mean, what we are doing is another process, is not studying for the sake of studying and for the sake of knowledge. Or at least I think that's what we should do.
Yeah.
Let's search, let's seek, let's study for the sake of doing, not for the sake of discerning and just knowing.
That's right.
I'm gonna finish with one figure of speech that I think it's not only a figure of speech.
Okay.
Those 10 commandments we're given out of the midst of fire.
Yep.
We're not given peacefully, but out of the midst of fire. I think that if we want to find the perfect words of God, we have to go beyond this fire. We have to cleanse ourselves in this figurative fire.
Beautiful way to put it.
And we have to take out all the addings and all the dirty or the not so true words. Addings. There is no good way of putting this, The lies are lies, the addings are addings. I try to be politically correct and a little bit gentle, but there is no way on being gentle. We should go through the fire and burn everything that is not gold.
Yeah. Amen. And here's the other thing. Look, when I first started discovering, let's say, problems or issues or discrepancies, I really was troubled. My faith was troubled in a way because I had been told, but I immediately kind of, I weighed it in my mind and I was like, well, what are my options here? My options are you either push forward towards the fire, as you put it, or you just give up. I mean, now I have to believe that some Bible teachers have come to what I've come to because I'm not the smartest guy. I don't claim to be. I'm dedicated. I want to know. I really search for answers. And when I find them, I know that other people are seeing this. But
I see courage.
Yeah. Well, I think that people come to the place where they say, if I tell them that, they're not going to support me or they're not going to, I know that has to be a consideration. Well, when I got to that crossroad, I said, I don't care. I mean, otherwise, if I'm going to just lay down and I don't know, give up or play the game, I don't want to do that. And what I find refreshing is that I'm now surrounded by a group of people who are at least willing to continue to look as hard as I'm looking. And here's the other thing. I don't want to be disrespectful. And I'm not making fun of matters of faith, but I do think we should challenge it. And I think only by challenging and refining this word. See, I used to think, well, like people, I would take in what they would say, like, who are you? How dare you to challenge this is the word of God? And then I finally realized, no. You're defending a text which has been tampered with. And people who are fundamentalist and apologetic in their approach, what they're doing is, I think they are protecting the same lying pen of the scribes that has been going on for thousands of years, and we're calling them. We're saying, no, that doesn't line up with this. So it does take courage, and I'm happy to be in a group of people who are also courageous in that decision. And we're searching. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, sometimes because we want to be loyal, we find ourselves covering for things that we shouldn't cover, and we find ourselves protecting people or causes that we don't.
Yeah.
Originally, we wouldn't have done that if we hadn't have this emotional setback with people or situation, emotional or historic, because sometimes it's historicity. Because I know somebody since when I was 15 years old, I'm going to protect and I'm going to be loyal. But yeah, we have to be courageous and to understand that what is true is true. There is no gentle way around this.
That's right. And I appreciate you, Clody. I know that you're like that. Once you get focused on something, and many in this group are like this, you're willing to put all of those things you believe to the test, and that's what we
I
have to
pray to
do.
God that I have this courage.
Yeah, me too.
Not every time, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's good.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Clody. I appreciate it. Sue, I'm going to bring you up. Let me just say one thing that I'm working on. It's funny. Many of you know James Tabor. He's not with us today. He's gone somewhere. I don't remember. He sent a text to our little group and said he wouldn't be here today. But he is he often will drop something in my lap, like, "Hey, would you take a look at something?" And sometime back, I know that Simca Yakubovich and James brought up to me a certain inscription that was declared a forgery in what is called one of the biggest trials of the century. And just because of my work on Shapira, it came up in a conversation. And I wanted to say, I'll get more into this later if we have time and no one has any questions. I want to hear what you have to say. But I'm currently talking about measuring something, the truth. Like I have learned to really put things through the ringer and look at evidence. And I'm currently studying something. This has nothing to do with Shapira, but it is a very important inscription that we had. It ties to the biblical narrative from the Hebrew Bible, and some consider it fake, some consider it real, but you have to look at this and weigh the evidence, and I am knee deep into a whole nother investigation. We have to learn, I guess my bottom point is, and I'll tell you what that is later, maybe, but we have to learn to be honest with the evidence. And if we're weighing something in the biblical text and we got two different stories, we have to look at both. Otherwise, we're just, I think, wasting our time. So, but we'll talk more about that. What is that archaeological question that I'm looking into? Because I just got a book that's about it. So we're going to look later. Sue, how are you, my friend? Let me see.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. How are you, my friend?
Shabbat shalom. It's
Shabbat
wonderful
shalom.
to see everyone. First, of course, I wanted to thank you for the lesson. I thought you created a really, excuse the terminology, but neat and tidy package that allows us to really closely examine those differences and for each listener to seriously consider and make up their own mind. I thought you did a beautiful job of it. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
And secondly, what Clody was talking about, where, and well, not just Clody, I think a couple of other people mentioned that, we all are on this path and that some of us are able to go down the path more quickly and others of us need to take a little longer. And it reminded me, I had a conversation with my niece yesterday. We were on the phone for like 4 hours talking about the faith. And she's very interested, but she's had a really traumatic life and she's trying to sort things through. And at one point she made a statement that I challenged with a scriptural comeback. And she said, "Aunt Sue, don't take my belief away from me."
Yeah.
And, I remembered, it took me back to when my husband spent 3 years studying before he came to me and said, "I think we've got a problem here."
Yeah.
And I remember my reaction, your gorge just rises and you're like, no,
Yeah.
what?
Yep.
And, thankfully, 3 weeks later, I was able to agree with him and we went from there. But yeah, each of us is on a different path and we take different ways to get there, and some faster, some slower. So I just wanted to thank Clody for reminding us about that. And then my third thing, I have kind of a minor off to the side question for you regarding Yitro.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard you say before and I have read before that Horeb was a holy mountain before Moshe ever went to the mountain.
Yeah.
In fact, I have this old book called Patriarchal Palestine, and it says the first Babylonian monarch who penetrated into the peninsula of Sinai bore a name compounded with that of the moon god, Sin, which thus bears witness to a special veneration for that deity. Now, the name of Mount Sinai is similarly derived from that of the Babylonian moon god Sin. It was the high place where the god must have been adored from early times under his Babylonian name. It thus points to a Babylonian influence, if not to the presence of Babylonians on the spot. Can it have been that the mountain whereon the God of Israel afterwards revealed himself to Moshe was dedicated to the moon god of Babylon by Naram-Sin, the Chaldean conqueror? So this brought to my mind the thought that Moshe was living with Yitro, the Midianite priest. Apparently, they lived very close to Mount Horeb, Mount Sinai, because Moshe was shepherding his sheep there and spoke with God there. So I'm wondering, if Yitro was a priest, is it possible or even likely that he was aware of our God, but simply saw him as one of a pantheon of gods and wasn't acknowledging him as the supreme being?
I think you are on to one of the greatest mysteries of the Bible here. And I would just say briefly that I've always thought that the biblical text as we've received them tell a story of a connection with this Midianite idea. One thing we know for certain is that you take the elements out associated with Midian, Moses' time in Midian, and with the priest of Midian, and you lose the location of the mountain. In other words, he discovers this place because of his time in Midian, and I've got that. So there is certainly a question of connection, a connection between the Midianite priesthood and even not only the location of Horeb, which is called Horeb, by the way, in Exodus 3. So what is the connection, and even the name of God? Remember, Moses doesn't know God by this other name, and I believe neither do the children of Israel. Now, I know different people have different views on this, but the text, at least as we've received them, have a giveaway here. They're like, look, they don't know this name, Exodus chapter 6. So I think that we have these desert tribes, that there is a blending of the story, and part of it is from those desert tribes. We have other evidence that this name, Iau, which is very close to the Tetragrammaton, that the Shazu in the desert, I've taught on this in the past. I think Patty posted one of the articles that is out there on the internet. You can find quite a bit actually on it. So anyway, I think that there is a connection between the Midianites, Jethro, the name of God, and this location. But what we do know is in Exodus 3, it's called the Mountain of God, and that's way before the revelation at Sinai, at Horeb. So it was already considered a holy mountain. So you're right on it. Yeah.
When you say mountain of God, do you know what the Semitic language translation was of that? Was it mountain of Elohim?
Yes,
or?
It's actually in the Hebrew in Exodus 3, and it's mentioned elsewhere as well. Har Ha-Elohim.
That's right.
Har Ha-Elohim.
Yeah.
The mountain of Elohim, which I find interesting because so many people say, well, Elohim is just a title. It can mean this, it can mean that. Yeah, now, but anciently, Elohim, I think, is more than a title, more than a designation. That's late.
Agreed.
In fact, what is fascinating is that in the story of Elijah, when Elijah in 1 Kings 19 goes to Horeb, he doesn't go to Sinai. I think the name Sinai is very late, very priestly, and does tie to this Babylonian idea.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I appreciate your comments, Sue.
Thank you for all that you do. We love you. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
All right. We are going to tell our YouTube audience, shalom, adieu, farewell. We love you. Come back next week. If you are part of the Yachad, you need to join us in the Zoom call. We'll see the rest of you later. Now, if you're on the Zoom call, don't go anywhere. All right. Have a beautiful day.